What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday, the review scores went live for Horizon Forbidden West. Got the big Metacritic score. Turns out it was pretty good, but it still led to a lot of arguing and controversy online, and we're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a mysterious new website that Capcom has launched showing a countdown timer, making everyone guess what exactly we have to look forward to this week. And we're also going to be talking about a strange new discovery in Pokemon Legends Arceus, really giving us maybe a look into the future for the series. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Cyberpunk 2077, as it looks like we should see a new patch that people have been waiting quite a while for get announced today. We can see this posted up over on their Twitter, where it says, let's meet tomorrow, February 15th at 4 p.m. CET at the usual place, that being on Twitch under their CD Projekt Red account. I believe that's 10 a.m. Eastern or so, so a couple of hours after this video goes live, they should have this live stream and make an announcement. After this, people started to look around and realize that over on the Xbox store, the little X and S logo popped up on the Cyberpunk icon, and that basically means it's been optimized for next gen, or I guess current gen platforms. At this point, we've been waiting for this patch for the Xbox Series X, S, and PlayStation 5 for a while. They've had to delay it multiple times because they just had to get the game working in the first place. It's been like a year of patches at this point. And I guess after this, we should hear about the Witcher 3 patch for, again, current gen systems. My biggest hope here is the patch comes out and it's just smooth sailing. They don't have the patch release and then the whole thing just breaks again, because we've seen them have to fix it so many times. It'd be a shame if they set themselves back with this next generation patch. But I guess look forward to it today. We should see some big announcement for Cyberpunk 2077, where it will finally be able to take advantage of the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5. Also, we did have an ESRB rating go live for what appears to be an unannounced game, and that's typically how these different things will leak out, are through different ratings boards. Typically with the ESRB, it means we're pretty close to an announcement and a release. We can see this. It's the Wonder Boy collection. It's described as a collection of 4 action platformers in which players help characters save the land from monsters, and it is currently rated for the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. So 4 different games from the Wonder Boy series. I played, I think, the Dragon's Trap, that got like or the Cursed Kingdom, I know that released in 2018 on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Switch. But we can see some of the games here: Wonder Boy and Monsterland, Wonder Boy 3. There's also the Dragon's Trap. So I'm sure they could pick a couple of different games from different platforms, and this is dating back to the mid-'80s here in the arcade. It's always fun to see these collections, especially for a series that I haven't really had a chance to go back and play much of, minus some of the more recent releases that we've had in this series on like the Switch or the PlayStation. So just kind of hanging out now, waiting for this to get announced, but an exciting collection to look forward to. Oh, and it seems like every time we're leading up to a direct, everyone reserves at least one spot on that bingo card for Mother 3, at least being announced to be releasing outside of Japan in like the US or Europe or anything like that. And it looks like we're not alone, as the producer would also like to see this. This over on Nintendo Everything, where they say, I remember how Mr. Itoy rewrote all the placeholder text that our staff had put in, and the atmosphere of the game changed completely. That was really eye-opening. Going on to say, also would love to see Mother 3 re-released in the US and Europe. As a lover of games, I will continue to wait for Mother 3's release worldwide in English. This from the producer, Kamioka. And I mean, I would love to see Nintendo do this. I just am more and more skeptical as we go along that it will ever happen, because they have released it a couple of times now in Japan. I mean, they dropped it on like the Wii U and still just nothing anywhere else. And there are some things in the game that would probably stir up quite a bit of controversy, especially on social media platforms like Twitter, I'm sure. But for Nintendo, they probably look at that and say, is it worth the 100,000 maybe that it will sell? For them, probably not, but I would love to see it not only released outside of Japan, but also get that physical copy, because I will be there day one to pick it up. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Horizon Forbidden West. I am very excited for the release of this game. I actually went back pretty recently, played back through Horizon Zero Dawn, because it had been a little while. I mean, it's been 5 years since the game came out. Remember, it came out like a week or two before Breath of the Wild. So that was a very jam-packed, like 10 days with Horizon Zero Dawn and then Breath of the Wild and the Switch releasing. But I went back through it, still a phenomenal game to check out on your PlayStation 4 or through backwards compatibility on the PS5. Has that 60 FPS patch, which made it way smoother to play through. But the reviews are now live for Forbidden West. We can see this over on Metacritic with a score of 89. That is currently on 100 critic reviews. And I don't think I have to tell you this, but 89 is a great score. Actually, you know what? I do have to tell you this because for some reason, this was a hot topic yesterday when it came to the review score of an 89 not being enough. No, I'm serious. 100 critic reviews, 89 seemed to be too low for people. I mean, if you look at the critic review split, 96 positive, 4 mixed. Something's telling me this is a good game, but I mean, I'll have to play it for myself, of course. At least it's reviewed well so far. It seemed to be a couple of reviews that were picked out that pulled that score down to below a 90. That seemed to be what people really wanted out of this, was to be a 90 plus game. And that's kind of the thing we have right now with review scores in general. While you may see, seemingly the reviews getting passed around yesterday was one from like, I think it was Stevivor. They gave it like a 6.5 out of 10. I mean, at the end of the day, any of these 6 out of 10 or 5 out of 10, they're different people's opinions. There may be people who don't like an open world style game like Horizon Forbidden West. Although, some of the reviews I was reading through, people who don't typically even like open world style games, like we'll say a Ubisoft game where people can get overwhelmed looking at the map, apparently the pacing and the direction, it was much quicker and straightforward, really. Like it pulled you along very, very well. And one of the biggest things people pointed out that was an improvement over the first one was the pacing. Visually, of course, the game is stunning. The Digital Foundry did an entire breakdown of it, and yeah, it looks super impressive. We, of course, have the quality mode or the performance mode. I will say, based on what John Linneman was saying over on the Digital Foundry channel, it does appear you are going to be missing out on some of the bigger highlights when it comes to visuals if you go with performance, but having that higher frame rate, I feel like I would prefer that overall, because even then, it still looks really good. Now, traversal was one of the biggest issues I had with that first Horizon Zero Dawn, because yes, I know Breath of the Wild is a comparison that's drawn to it because of all the climbing in Breath of the Wild versus Horizon Zero Dawn, which wasn't great. The hand-to-hand combat with humans, also not great, but it does appear that at least traversal was worked out better in Horizon Forbidden West, and the combat also has been improved. But either way, I will be picking it up this Friday. I thought about doing one of those like initial impression videos, kind of like what I tried out with Pokemon Legends Arceus, so let me know if you would like to see me do like the first hour or two and kind of cut it up and make it a bit shorter so we can see how the game looks right from the beginning. Next up, let's talk about Capcom and this mysterious website that they've launched. You can see it here in real time, and it started up with 7 days remaining, and now it's down to like 6 days and then 5 days, and it appears that it will end on Sunday night, depending on time zone and all of this. Like, I believe for me, it's like Monday at like 1 a.m. or something. Basically, as soon as we tick over to next week, this website, I guess, is going to go live. Or, you know what would be really funny is if this is a countdown to a teaser that would then lead us to another countdown for an event. I've been trying to think about what this could be, and that's what a lot of people are doing now. Of course, tons of speculation, and there are a lot of things that Capcom could tell us about here. I mean, obviously, a new Mega Man game. I mean, look, it makes sense, right? With the text and okay, it's probably not Mega Man, but Resident Evil seems to be I would say the prevailing opinion right now, and sure, some people are hoping Resident Evil 4 Remake getting shown off here. I'm leaning more towards RE Village DLC. They already told us last year that they were going to be releasing downloadable content for the game to just continue releasing content for it and continue to rack up sales. It's already done pretty well in that department. I would prefer RE4. I think it'd be awesome, but I kind of feel like they're saving that for some sort of event with maybe Sony, like they have done with previous Resident Evil Remake games, put it on a bigger stage. Although, I think now Capcom is to the point with Resident Evil that they can just, whenever they want, they can do their own event. If they said tomorrow, tune in next week to check out Resident Evil 4 Remake, everyone would tune in to check out Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, another possibility I think is kind of a long shot, although maybe they're playing up the Resident Evil vibes, the text and all of this to kind of throw us off a bit. Street Fighter 6. I mean, we've been sitting with this latest Street Fighter game, Street Fighter 5, with all of its different releases for quite a while now, and we already know Street Fighter 6 is in development. There was that big Capcom leak, and it was in there. It was really big news because they listed an Xbox version next to it, which it seems strange now considering Sony has that stake in Evo, and you figure Capcom would have done partnering with them there for Street Fighter 6 as well to kind of work in that. But either way, I'm kind of leaning towards RE Village DLC. I think that makes sense to have a countdown go live here to lead up to something like this, as opposed to a brand new game reveal. Next up, let's talk about a strange new discovery that's been made in Pokemon Legends Arceus. It's been a few weeks since the game's been out, and obviously people are going to start going through the game code itself through data mining to see if there's anything we may be missing, like a hidden room, for example, as we can see. This was posted up by Deep Game Research. They wanted to more or less explain what was found and then post it up online through a video where they say, hey everyone, first off, let me say thank you for covering my discovery. Though there seems to be some misinformation surrounding it. Let me clear something up. It's not out of bounds in any map. It's actually a part of a separate map that is not normally accessible. They say, I found this map when looking through the game files and found textures that looked modern. After finding which area they belong to and a good 8-ish hours of trying various hacky things that I've learned over the years, I finally force loaded the map in game. The modern room is just a small part of a much larger unused area, which I will be covering my own video about it as soon as I have the time to sit down and edit it. Anyway, huge thanks. There we go for Faz for getting this snowball rolling. There you go. So, I mean, you could see the house floating above the ground there, much, much further along than back in the day when we were just trying to push a truck to get Mew. No, now we have full modernized rooms, and that was the biggest thing that threw everyone off here, because if you look at the video, it's done very well. Like, it's very detailed. It's, for the most part, polished. Yes, you can walk through things, like the clippings obviously all messed up there, but they certainly took time to sit down and detail this room out, which has led people to a few conclusions here. One, this may have been the room that they would have had set up at the beginning of the game, that your character gets sucked through a portal and then dropped into the world that you end up exploring in Legends Arceus, or this is part of some kind of downloadable content later on in the series, or just something that they released that could use later on. It's also possible that they were just using this as a test area or a test room for different ideas, and they can kind of test it in-engine. That's not really uncommon. It was really funny though, because they have the Switch right there on the table, and that's a common theme for these different Pokemon games, is whatever generation it's released on, like even back when you're playing on the Game Boy or whatever, you might have a Super Nintendo in your room. In this case, they had the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Special Edition Switch with the dock, completely detailed right there on the table. So what a cool thing to find here. And they say they're going to go through it a bit more and have their own video. So I would keep tabs on that, and maybe we can work out exactly what's going on here. I don't really expect the Pokemon Company or Nintendo to comment on this, as yeah, it might end up being used later on in downloadable content. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Platinum Games once again. They keep coming up, don't they? I mean, they have Babylon's Fall coming out. They made that pitch randomly in an interview about Scalebound to Microsoft, saying, hey, let's do this, Phil. Let's see if we can make that game again. Well, now they're in an interview talking about how, well, if the right criteria was met, yeah, we wouldn't be opposed to acquisition talks. Yeah, seriously. Let's take a look at this. This is over on VGC, where they had the interview, where they say, the most important thing for us is to have the freedom to make the games that we want to make. This from the recently promoted to president and CEO Atsushi Inaba, saying, what I hear about the recent acquisitions, I don't think Microsoft is going to start micromanaging Activision to where they take away all their freedom. I don't think it's going to be a relationship like that. I think there's going to be a lot of mutual respect there, and I think Activision will be able to continue doing what they do best. That's also what's most important to us at the end of the day, whatever form that takes for us and our company, so I would not turn anything down as long as our freedom was still respected. Well, that's certainly an interesting way to close out your response to what do you think about the Activision, Microsoft acquisition, or just acquisitions around the gaming industry now, to say, well, you know what, if our freedom for development was respected, I mean, we wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, who knows what could happen in the future, and it's interesting because they said, oh, let's try Scalebound again. Let's do it, Phil. And now they're like, well, I mean, hey, it seems like Microsoft's pretty good about doing like letting these different developers and publishers kind of just freely develop and create different things. That apparently is what happens. They just go there and say, what do you guys want to work on? Okay, yeah, that could work. Let's do it. I mean, is Microsoft gonna buy Platinum Games? It does seem like they're like kind of pitching themselves a bit to Microsoft. So who knows what the future holds here. I guess the biggest thing we've learned from these different larger acquisitions is if the studio wants to be bought, Microsoft doesn't really seem to have a problem coming in and buying them, but it's still the question of would they be able to get that done with a Japanese company or studio, and how they would be able to make that work, because Microsoft doesn't really have a lot of experience doing that now. But they have said, we would like to buy a Japanese studio and bring them into the Xbox family, their Xbox ecosystem, to create more variety for Game Pass. So I guess you never know. This right now is at least an answer to the question around acquisitions in gaming, but who knows what this holds for the future of Platinum if that is their mindset. Because before it was like, now we want to stay independent. Now it's like, well, if they respect our freedom, I don't know, maybe we would hear out some of those talks. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, Horizon Forbidden West reviews are out. Are you picking it up this weekend? 22% said, yes, I'm grabbing it immediately, day one, ASAP. 37% said, I'll wait for a sale, or I'm not getting it right away. And then 41% said, no, I'm not interested. So the majority said they're at least looking into it and maybe wait for a sale, which we've seen Sony games go on sale less and less, actually. Like, I think Demon's Souls, while you can get it on sale on Amazon from time to time, I mean, its MSRP, I believe, is still the full $70. So I think Sony's going to try to keep this first-party series of games like that they release over the next couple of years at that full price as long as possible. But I think Horizon is going to be one of those big PlayStation 5 games to look forward to, and I'm definitely picking this one up. Although I will be curious to see how it runs on the PlayStation 4 exactly, especially when we put it side by side to that PS5 version. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from T saying, wait, people are actually willing to pay full price for a cloud game? The why though meme pops right up in my head. And you know, that is something I've mentioned, and I fell into this trap as well, is where we forget that we are kind of detached from how the mainstream may view these things. And I mean, that becomes very clear and obvious when things like Call of Duty is like the biggest seller, or Madden, which never changes but still sells 6, 7, 8 million copies in a year. In this case, though, I almost wonder if a lot of people were buying this not realizing it had to be streamed. Because, I mean, it's a full price. It's like $70 or $80, I think, for the bundle. So that's quite a bit to spend on something you don't necessarily have really any ownership of. I know digital games, it's already a gray area when it comes to ownership. Physical, as long as it's on the cartridge, there you go. But cloud streaming is like a whole other thing, because it's like if you don't have the internet at all, you're not playing it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. Really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. With this Horizon Forbidden West out this weekend, are you picking it up? And then what about that room that was discovered in Pokemon Legends Arceus? What exactly do you think it's for? And then what do you think this countdown timer from Capcom is going to lead to? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.